The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk some Utes. Big decision, we think, going to come down today. Let's hit the open.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Steve, hello.
Hello. How are we, fellas?
We're doing great. Steve, Jake introduced you by saying we expect a decision today. Is that accurate? Do we expect a decision on Kyle Whittingham's future today?
It's in his contract. He has to let Utah know what he's going to decide. Does that mean we're going to find out? I don't know. I'm not so sure. But, we're all kind of digging and asking around, talking to as many people as we can to try and stay on top of things, and we'll see. We'll see. I haven't heard one way or another whether we'll see something today officially, publicly, that sort of thing. We just know that Whit has to let Utah know what he's going to do today.
If Whit says, I'm not sure, I need another weekend, are they going to fire him?
Dude, no. They wouldn't
okay.
do that to him.
Oh,
no
okay.
way.
So it may not be a hard deadline.
I mean, you never know, right? Like, I don't know. It's for Kyle, it's got to be tough for him because, I mean, we know how competitive Kyle is, right? It's who he is. It's what's defined him. He's all about competition, and he's talked a lot about not wanting to be a lifer as a coach, but it's all he's known in his life, and it's got to be tough coming to terms potentially of, saying goodbye to that life and, the grind. As much stress as he probably feels, like it's also just a big part of his life and something that, these coaches just, you get into such a rhythm and it becomes your lifestyle. It can be hard to say goodbye to that. And I think that's sort of where we're at right now with Kyle, and this decision is the actuality and reality of potentially hanging it up and calling it a career. And, so we'll see. I think Kyle obviously has done a lot. He's been at the helm of this program for 2 decades. And in those 2 decades, the University of Utah has evolved in so many different ways. And a lot of it does stem from the success of the football program. And so, Kyle has meant a lot to the university, and his impact is just incredible. So, it's tough. We're all kind of waiting today to see if, news starts to trickle out. But Kyle, for all that he's done for the university, is he should be afforded the time to truly come to grips with whatever his decision is moving forward.
Morgan's obviously been very patient.
Yeah.
If Coach Whit were to come back, would you expect that patience to continue?
Oh man, what a great question. I think it would. I think Scally has been, understanding, loyal, and obviously he's ready to take that next step as a coach. And, he's been doing a lot of things behind the scenes in sort of acting as head coach, doing a lot of things, leading team meetings, that sort of stuff. And I just think he's ready to take the reins and start to make his imprint on the football program. I think he's got some things that he probably wants to do and some changes he would like to make and all these sort of things, but he's always been, loyal to it and understanding of where he's at in his career. And I think Morgan is, I think the patience would continue, but certainly it's a valid question of wondering, how much more patience does he have? He's been the head coach and waiting for a handful of years now, and he is certainly ready to take that next step as a coach.
How did Utah's recruiting class finish out, or where is it, I guess, at this point, despite all the, I guess, uncertainty about the coaching future?
Yeah, with that, there's been questions about, well, Kyle needs to make a decision because it's going to impact recruiting. And I think people need to understand is Utah, when they recruit these kids, they let them know. They're honest. They're upfront. They provide a very clear picture of where the program is at with Kyle and with Morgan being the head coach in waiting. And it's really allowed them to, maintain their solid recruiting presence, right? Over the last couple of years, especially last year, they were able to hang on and hold on to a lot of their guys despite a 5-7 record. And this year, with the success that they had, it really parlayed into, a nice little finish here at the end, flipping Celeste Moa, the number one player in the state of Utah. Not that Kelvin Obot was ever a threat to leave, but he is, a very hot commodity as an offensive tackle, one of the top. He's number 6 in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. He's a 5-star, according to On3 and Rivals, and a composite, industry-wide 5-star, the first that Utah has ever signed in program history. And so, Utah finished strong, holding on to the bulk of their class, flipping a couple guys in Celeste Moa and Fasiali from Michigan State. They currently sit on a top 30 class. And I think what's going to be really interesting is this isn't the biggest class for Utah. I think they're going to end up signing 17 players, and that's going to lead to more activity in the transfer portal. This Utah roster, as it currently is constructed going into 2026, it's a pretty young roster, and I think Utah, with some of the attrition that they're going to experience with graduation and players moving on to the NFL, there's going to be a need to add more college experience through the portal than, bringing in more young players. So that's going to be the focus for Utah moving forward, is the portal and adding experience to this roster. But this was a really solid finish for Utah, flipping, Celeste Moa and adding him to the class. He obviously is a tremendous talent, an electric talent, capable of playing two ways. And, for him, the opportunity to come home and play in front of family and friends is a big deal. So I think that's a big thing for Utah, was being able to flip Mo and add him to this class, which was already pretty strong. But to add him as sort of the headliner, here locally, I think is a big deal.
Steve, I've seen Utah defenses get run over before. It has happened. I mean, you can think of Kadeem Carey. Back in the day, there was a game against Cal where they gave up a ton of rushing yards. I want to say like 2011. I mean, there have been examples of Utah's defense getting run over in the past, but I don't think I've ever seen it happen 2 games in a row. And so I'm curious, what do you think is going on with the run defense? Is that something that is that a sign of something that is wrong?
I think this year Utah was just a little too lean, and not necessarily. And I'm not talking like physically lean, but just in general. You had one senior in Aliki Vamahi. You had another player in Jonah Ea, who he is actually in reality pretty lean as a defensive tackle. I think he played at about 280 pounds this season, which is that's tough, especially when you're 6'4" and you just have that lean sort of frame. He made plays throughout the year, but he's not the typical tackle that we've seen. And I think the big issue for Utah and why they struggled so much was just the health of Dallas Vakalahi. So, he was in and out of the lineup all season long. And then after those 3, Utah had 5 true freshmen in that defensive tackle room. So when I say the tackle position was lean, those are all the factors that contributed to why Utah struggled in those final 2 games. Once Kansas State and Kansas sort of committed to running it right at Utah, it really highlighted a weakness this season. I do think, I know there's a lot of confidence and optimism around those 5 freshmen and what they're going to do going into year 2 with the program. This year was more or less a red shirt. We saw a couple of guys play here and there in Carson Kafusi and Pupu Sepulona, but in no way were these guys truly ready to contribute, high volume snap counts this season. So just a number of contributing factors kind of contributed, led to the breakdowns late in the season that we saw. But there is, confidence that this group is going to be much improved going into next year with all of these young players. And they've got some big bodies within that group of freshmen that they feel are going to make big steps of progress this offseason and be bigger contributors next year.
How much do you think the Vegas Bowl means to Utah this year?
Well, I mean, that sort of depends on maybe what Kyle Whittingham decides, and maybe that adds a little extra fuel to the motivation. But I think there will be pride in the opportunity to play in the Vegas Bowl, regardless of the situation with Kyle. Obviously we know bowl games just aren't what they were, right? We'll probably see a number of guys, opt to not play in the bowl game. And for Utah, that's an opportunity to get some other guys some snaps and get a look at other players. So it's going to be kind of a unique situation, but I think there would be, excitement over the game. It's a short trip down to Vegas, and it's a great opportunity to play a Big Ten program, and we'll see. But yeah, I think that's most likely where Utah's headed is to the Vegas Bowl, and I would anticipate, from what I've heard, I think the matchup is going to be Utah-Nebraska, but we'll wait to see on Sunday what that actually is.
How many Big 12 teams should get into the college football playoff?
Man, I think both Texas Tech and BYU should be in it. But we've seen with this college football playoff committee that, they've got an angling for who they're trying to get in there. And, I think you look at BYU's resume with the 2 wins, or I shouldn't say 2 wins, but the win over Utah and what that meant and for them. And you look at the rest of their body of work, they've done a lot to warrant greater consideration compared to some of the other resumes, that belong in the top 11 and top 10. Texas Tech, obviously, being where they are and what they accomplished this season. I absolutely think the Big 12 should be a 2-bid league this season, regardless of what happens in the championship game this year. With the way that the top 3 programs played this year, with Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah, Utah doing a lot to, get the big dominant wins, I think really helped or should have helped both Texas Tech and BYU in sort of strengthening their resumes. It's obviously a quality win for both, but yeah, I think the Big 12 should have both Texas Tech and BYU as of right now. Now, obviously, they always talk about how championship games shouldn't impact things, but we'll see what plays out beyond, a BYU just winning out and securing their bid that way. We'll see how competitive that game is and what the other games look like to potentially, impact things within the top 10.
Yeah, Steve, do you have a feel for tomorrow's game?
I really don't. I have no feel other than, what I know. And, from the regular season, Texas Tech, they are just at a completely different level in terms of talent and leadership. They just have so much talent across the board, especially defensively. And, with that game being in Arlington, obviously we know the BYU fan base will be there, but that Texas Tech presence will be pretty strong. So it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be a competitive matchup, but just watching Tech play this season, they were just, they were on a different level than everybody else this year. And it's just hard to see them not winning this game tomorrow, being in Texas. And, they're just at a different level this year than everybody else, in my opinion.
Your phone hasn't buzzed during this interview, right? We don't know if Coach Witt is going or staying.
Yeah,
we're still in limbo. Okay.
I've gotten some texts, but nothing crazy yet. But man, it has been a wild week. I've been on the phone, man, multiple hours a day. I've probably made 40, 50 calls this week alone. It's been quite a crazy week of investigating.
Well, we'll be glued to your work, Steve. You let us know when you know, will you?
Yeah, you guys got it. Appreciate you, fellas.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you. There he is, the one and only Steve Bartle, waiting on that Bartle bomb. What is Coach Whitt going to do?
Yeah, you get that he's supposed to have a deadline today. Should Whitt care? No. Why have a deadline today, other than at one point it was written in a contract years ago, whenever this decision was made?
Honestly, you got to have a deadline somewhere to make decisions. And, yeah, I'm sure it's not hard and fast. But if it were me, I would be taking the opportunity to say, all right, I got to make up my mind here. I mean, that's just kind of how – well, that's certainly how our government works. I mean, if there were no deadlines, literally nothing would get done.
The government would shut down for months at a time. Right. Wait. Those are make-believe, too.
If I'm Coach Whitt, I take the cushy fundraising job and play a lot of golf. But that's just me. A lot of coaches, it's not an accident that coaches coach into their 70s and 80s. Fewer 80s, I suppose, but coach for a long, long time because it's hard to let go.
I mean this lovingly. Every coach I met is a crazy person I've ever met. They all have the same thing. They're wired the same way. It's why they become coaches. It's how they get there. It's why they dedicate their lives to it. The amount of work you have to get to the point where you're a head coach, much less a Hall of Fame destined head coach, is insane. And once you get there, I get why nobody wants to let go.
It's hard to give it up.
It's hard to give it up.
So we'll see. All right, stay tuned. Coming up next, we'll talk a little more Big 12 championship with Don Williams, covers Texas Tech for the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. All of our Big 12 coverage is brought to you by our friends at JCW's The Burger Boys. Quality and a lot of it. Stay tuned. More straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Way to hit! Nobody brings you better coverage of the Cougars than 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you want to talk about manifesting, go back to our dinner. When Joey and I had dinner, we talked about this. Joey, you remember that we talked about playing each other in the championship game. We manifested it, and now here we are.
Yeah, I think looking at the film, honestly, and the mistakes that we made, they're so fixable. We're able to fix those this week, and we're very confident, as an offense at least. I know the defense is the same. They're in the film room every day doing their thing, but we've seen a lot of things that have brought a lot of confidence. Obviously, we need to execute.
You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to talk a little bit more about the big game tomorrow. Of course, the Big 12 championship, BYU and Texas Tech. Let's get out of the zone phone. Joining us now, he covers Texas Tech for the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. He's the one and only Don Williams with us here on Jake and Ben. What's going on, Don?
What's up, Don?
Hey, guys. We're headed toward Arlington as we speak, and looking forward to the game tomorrow. Thanks for the invitation to come on with y'all again.
How do you think Texas Tech is feeling headed into this game?
Well, I think they feel confident. They really haven't given themselves much reason not to feel confident over the course of the year, since, I guess one of the statistics on them that's kind of eye-catching is that they're one of only, I believe, 6 teams now in the last 100 years that has won 11 regular season games by 20 or more points. And, the closest game, out with the exception now, notably, of the loss at Arizona State when they didn't have Baron Morton. Otherwise, the closest game in their 11 victories was the one against BYU there on November 8th here in Lubbock.
So I think the Big 12 is learning that BYU and their fans travel really well. There's members of the LDS Church all over the place, and they come out to see the Cougs play. But also, this game is closer there to Lubbock. And can you tell us what, split do you expect of the stadium? Because it is sold out. We know that. Is it going to be 70% Texas Tech, 80%? What do you think?
That's kind of hard to say, but just because, obviously I haven't observe the BYU fan base, up close and personal, with the exception there of since BYU has come into the conference. So I don't really know from that standpoint, although you just documented it, of course. But, outside of Lubbock, the thing is Texas Tech's biggest alumni base is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so anytime that Tech has a sporting event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which Arlington sits right in the middle of it, the turnout is usually substantial. That goes for football, basketball, baseball, you name it. There are a whole lot of Texas Tech people who live in the DFW area, which for those who are maybe not real familiar with Texas geography, that's a little more than 300 miles from Lubbock, east of Lubbock. But being, big major metro, there are a whole lot of Texas Tech people in that area. And, so much so that for about 10 years, Texas Tech and Baylor moved their annual football game to the DFW area. They had the Cotton Bowl one year, and they had it at AT&T Stadium for about 9 years, something like that. And I remember one of the years they had like 72,000 people there. So my guess is based on that is, like you said, maybe 70 or 80% Texas Tech people. But obviously, like you said, BYU. I think Texas Tech people recognize there will be a lot of BYU blue in the stadium tomorrow as well.
It's hard to nitpick a 29-7 victory, but as you mentioned, this is the closest game other than their loss that Texas Tech has played this year. What do you think they would like to clean up, I guess, from the last time these two teams met?
Well, the thing that Texas Tech would like to clean up from that day, and they talked about it quite a bit, that day they had to kick 5 field goals. And so ever since then, Joey McGuire has said that and Tech's kicker is Stone Harrington, who I was kind of interested, maybe a little surprised to see. Stone Harrington was first team All Big 12 yesterday on the team picked by the coaches, which is saying something in this conference, particularly when you got a guy like Will Ferrin for BYU, who has had a great career. But anyhow, ever since the Tech BYU game last time, Stone Harrington kicked 5 field goals that game. And ever since then, Joey McGuire said, we want to stay out of the no stone zone. They call it the red zone. They now call the red zone the no stone zone. They like him kicking 50-yard field goals. They don't want him having to come in to kick field goals when a drive stalls out at the 12-yard line. So that's the one thing. That's the one thing that they would like to clean up compared to last game is finishing drives.
How healthy is Texas Tech going into this game?
As far as we know, reasonably healthy, considering that, 13th game of the year, everybody is going to have players who are banged up. Obviously week to week this season, the big one has always been Baron Morton because he suffered that lower leg injury in the season opener and then aggravated it when he took another hit in the Kansas game, like the 6th game of the season. So he's always the guy that that's kind of monitored. They say that he feels as good as he has all season, and moved pretty well in the last game up there at West Virginia. So he's probably the main guy. Although, if he were to go down, which he's kind of been vulnerable to having to leave games because of injury, it's happened 3 times to him this year. Then their depth at quarterback is a little questionable because Will Hammond, their number 2, is out for the year, and their number 3, Mitch Griffiths, got banged up last week against West Virginia. But there's none of their other really main players, starters, what have you, is out for this game or doubtful for this game.
They haven't given up a lot of points, period, this season, but it's 36 total points over their last 5 weeks. Does it seem like this is a team that's still ascending? Are they getting better?
Yeah, I think they are, and part of the reason why is just because it's such a veteran group that they have on defense. There's really almost no – outside of John Curry, one of their linebackers, who's a sophomore, there's almost nobody on that defense that is a young guy. They're going to lose, I think, 7 starters off of that defensive unit. Of course, that people make so much of their transfer portal class from last year. The defense is the side of the ball that benefited the most from that. So when you're talking guys so many of these guys who are 22, 23 years old and are really have shown themselves to be really dedicated to the process and that sort of thing, I think they can always sharpen up a little bit here and there. Again, part of the reason why is because most of these guys came from all different places across the country last year. So they are just, they're still, a lot of these guys are less than a full year removed from when they first met each other. So they can probably continue to develop their cohesiveness throughout the postseason.
How do you think this one plays out? Do you think we're looking at a lot of points? I'm guessing, given that Texas Tech's defense is, awesome, that maybe we're looking for more of a rough and tumble game. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't see it as a high-scoring game because, again, as good as Texas defense has been on a week-in, week-out basis, which is so bizarre for me to say because I remember covering the Texas Tech teams that there was a 2-year period where they scored 50 points in a game 4 times and lost all 4 of those games. So it's bizarre. It's so strange to say, it's hard to see anybody scoring more than 14 points against Texas Tech. That used to be the first 2 possessions that the opposing team had. But yeah, and plus I think kind of the nature of the way BYU stylistically likes to play as well with L.J. Martin, a QB run game with Bear Bachmeier, and they themselves having a defense at Tech, a physical defense that Texas Tech respects. And watching them, you really like how their linebackers play. So I would see it being another game that I haven't checked. I don't know what the over/under is on this game, but I think it's going to be another game where you can win in a game without scoring 30 points. I think the big question is just can BYU, like Texas Tech, finish some offensive series and stick it in the end zone, let's say 3 times, to make it more of a 24-21 game than 29-20 or 29-7 game.
Don, I know you're traveling today, but maybe you've seen the news that it looks like Matt Campbell's going to be heading to Penn State to be their next head coach. You've covered Iowa State, have maybe more familiarity than a lot of people in our state, just by being in the Big 12. What do you think happens with Iowa State if they lose a coach as good as Matt Campbell?
I think it's a sad day and a tough day for the conference. And just like I thought the same thing with Kalani Sitake the other day, I thought, man, Kalani Sitake going to Penn State, I actually wrote this, Kalani Sitake going to Penn State, that sounds like an AI-generated fake story, I mean, that seems bizarre to think of him with the Nittany Lions. And so I was glad to see from a conference standpoint that he stays at BYU. And I think it's a tough day for the Big 12 if Matt Campbell goes to or leaves Iowa State because, that's a place where they really have not had much history of success. It's been pretty spotty. In terms of power forward programs in America, the success level at Iowa State is historically is toward the bottom, and so to replicate or continue what Matt Campbell has done, I think it's going to be very tough up there. And I guess I kind of blew my prediction because the other day I do Big 12 power rankings, and on Sunday I wrote, Matt Campbell just passed the 10-year anniversary of his hiring at Iowa State. Prediction that he'll coach another 10 years at Iowa State and get into the Mike Gundy, Kyle Whittingham territory. It's just kind of, and I just kind of never expected him to leave because, 4, 5, 6 years ago, he was kind of a hot name. He had brought success to a place that hadn't won a whole lot, and he either and everybody expected him to leave, and it didn't happen. And then I thought, well, let's see what Matt Campbell's really made of. And then all that first cycle of guys that he won with, those guys were all gone, and then he showed that he could continue to recruit and sustain it. And so I just think the culture, the way they identify the kind of guys who succeed there, and the culture that they have, I think that's going to be hard to replicate if he goes.
Do you think BYU should be in the college football playoff even if they lose tomorrow?
That's a tough one. I'd say 50-50. Although I think, I think if you look at it, I think I can't remember who I saw, and I saw it posted on social media, but there are people who have made a pretty compelling case for BYU being one of the teams that belongs in. That was pretty persuasive. And I remember thinking I wasn't convinced that BYU did belong in the field, but after reading some of the case that can be made for the Cougars, I found it pretty, like I say, a pretty persuasive argument that they should be in, especially considering that they've beaten everybody else they've played except for a team that is now sitting number 4 in the CFP rankings. So yeah, I think the big thing though that BYU needs to do is play a game that's more close than it was in Lubbock, because the game in Lubbock, I never really got the sense that Texas Tech was in danger or that BYU was going to mount much of a comeback. So I think they need to, if they don't win, I think they need to play a game that's more back and forth and is a one-score game.
Well, Don, certainly travel safe to the game, but enjoy it, and let's hope we get a good one.
We appreciate you, Don.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Always enjoy it.
No, thank you, Don. You're the best. There you go. Don Williams covers Texas Tech for the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal.
This is not breaking news, obviously, but when it comes to a guy like Matt Campbell and, did you think he was going to be a lifer? And we have seen guys who we thought maybe have longer runways of coaching retire. Chris Peterson obviously comes to mind, guys who don't want to deal with the NIL era necessarily. I think you are going to see more coaches who may have been lifers somewhere recognize that, look, it's NIL or bust. I just can't win at a school if I don't have the money. And it's not an accident that while, yes, Brian Santiago came on our airwaves yesterday and said, we hope that they find a rule and can put money in place so everyone has the same opportunity to spend money and it's not lopsided. But until then, until it's enforced, they're going to be competitive. One of the reasons Kalani wanted 10 to 15 million extra a year is because if you don't have it, you're fighting such a steep uphill battle, you may not be competitive. As good as you've been. And it's why all of a sudden a team like Vanderbilt is relevant. And it's probably going to be good now. Vandy's going to be a good school. It's going to be a good football school. As long as these rules are in place, they're going to be just like BYU because they can go out there and they can pay the number 3 overall quarterback to pick them over, Georgia? You've got money. You can be competitive now.
All right, stay tuned. We wrap it up. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Way to hit! Nobody brings you better coverage of the Cougars than 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If I'm being honest, I just wanted to be here long. That's what it's all about. I've had amazing mentors along the way, including Lavelle Edwards and Kyle Whittingham, who like sticking where they're at. I appreciate all their examples to me, and so this is a place that I want to be for the long run.
That's such a peaceful feeling. I honestly, if he left, I would have been super sad. I would have probably cried in my bed. And I'm not even coming back for the next year. So that shows the character of Kalani and how much we care about this program, just knowing what he's done in the past and what we've been able to build. To have that kind of taken away and to start like new would be really, really hard.
You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my. From the islands to the basketball court. They may be engaging their thoughts. He's got wisdom beyond his years. He's got stories to make you cheer. He can bet, you know they're the best. Bringing sports.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows. We also want to remind you to kick things off with us tomorrow at 8 a.m., a Big 12 Championship edition of College Football Saturday. Alex Curie, Christian Esparza, and Alex Napolis get you ready for a showdown between number 11 BYU and number 4 Texas Tech. Then starting at 10 o'clock, tee it up with Brian and Bob and Real Golf Radio, bringing you the latest from the world of golf until noon. So swapping the College Football Saturday and Real Golf Radio. So be prepared, you golf nuts. who are trying to get geared out for Christmas, right? You got to.
Yeah.
It's a layup gift for the golfer in your
Yes,
life.
it is.
You know, I know they do a lot of that stuff. Brian and Bob have been doing a series on great golf gifts. You'd be surprised at the detail that Brian breaks down rangefinders.
I bet. Yeah. If it's your thing.
I happen to know this because my I listen to Real Golf Radio, but my daughter's dance class is at 9 on Saturdays. So I'm always dialed into Real Golf Radio. So thanks to Brian for hooking us up with the detailed breakdown of the rangefinder. I just used my watch. That's accurate enough. Lloyd, you're a rangefinder guy, though. Lloyd's got to be dialed into like the millimeter, or he's upset.
I use David James. David tells me how far it is, and then I guess a club, and I hit it wrong, and then I walk to where my next ball is.
Hey, I wanted to talk about the Tim Brando college football playoff stuff, but maybe we save that for next week because it really is kind of evergreen. The college football playoff topic will be around for quite some time, but give those guys another plug for their interview. Tim was really good coming on. Of course, Tim, he's not the head college football guy for Fox.
He's one of the top ones.
He's one of the top 2 or 3. And he's come on the station periodically over the years and has a relationship with David and Pat. But it was a real scorcher today. It was really good.
If BYU ends up making the college football playoff, wins tomorrow, and of course Texas Tech gets in as well, do we stop talking about how it's corrupt?
Oh, no, I think it is corrupt. I think the only reason they will have included BYU and Texas Tech is because they have to.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, right.
I think they put Texas Tech up as high as they did because they're just assuming they're going to beat BYU and it's going to solve all their problems. Mm-hmm. But no, if BYU gets an AQ bid, I don't think that does anything for the perception. And now it'll be kind of funny when they have to pick between Notre Dame and Miami.
Yeah, because they've got Notre Dame ranked higher, but Miami beat them, right, head to head.
Yeah. So that will kind of be hilarious. I mean, there's the disappointing thing, and they probably should just get rid of Conference Championship Weekend if all we're going to care about is the playoff going forward, because basically the big Conference Championship games don't matter at all. The Big 12 one does. The ACC one does in a bad way.
Yep.
But Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, and Ohio State are all getting in regardless of what happens.
There's a real argument that BYU Texas Tech is the best championship game tomorrow because it has the most on the line.
And by the way, Alabama shouldn't get in regardless.
Agreed.
But they are going to get in regardless.
Yeah. If they were to get steamrolled, like 52-7, maybe you find a way to drop them, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So, yeah, they're going to play a relatively tight game, and as a result, they're going to say, man, any Saturday, Alabama could have won that game, so go with them.
Speaking of Brando, he said that Alabama and the SEC and their commissioner are bent that Alabama got froze out last year, and they're not going to let that happen again.
Yeah, and they shouldn't. They should be mad about that. You should be mad if you're not getting the money.
I keep wanting to call Greg Sankey Mike Slive, and Mike Slive has not been the SEC commissioner for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. I kept multiple times during this conversation I want to be like, Mike Slive is not going to wait. It'd kind of be like referencing Bill Clinton as the president of the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he hasn't been that for a while.
I don't have a problem if Alabama gets in.
I do. A 3-loss team?
They would have 3 losses.
But you're not going to hold the title game against them, but everybody's more than willing to hold it against BYU. Stupid. But 3-loss, you're out.
All right.
Or why are they playing it? That's exactly my point. Why are they playing conference championship games then? If it basically doesn't matter who wins and loses, if all we're caring about is the playoff, then why are they doing it?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. As we've said, I've been banging this drum for a while. I hate the college football playoff because I think it totally diminishes the value of winning your conference championship. I don't understand why conference championships have taken such a backseat to everything in college football, including the Rose Bowl or whatever big bowl game. And I get when the Rose Bowl used to be the same thing every year and it actually meant something and had some tradition. Getting there was really cool and it lined up some legendary matchups. But now that doesn't mean anything specifically, and we've killed the value of winning your conference championship, other than it does potentially get you a bid, though Duke is going to challenge that. Yeah. Duke's going to challenge that actually meaning anything. Yeah, I really hate that. I think you play in your conference. You can't control what the SEC does or the Big Ten does or the ACC does. You can only control what happens in the Big 12. And if you win that should be a huge accomplishment. Utah winning the Pac-12 twice is a huge accomplishment, but it gets frowned upon because they didn't win the Rose Bowl. And I think that's insane. I think that's bizarre. I think that should be the dessert of the main course that is your conference play and conference championship. And BYU has set themselves up for a great main course. And all we talk about is, well, if you win the championship game, it's a cab ride to what actually matters, not that this is the celebration itself. That's what I hate.
Well, you're describing college basketball for
exactly
a
right.
long time.
Yep, exactly right.
Hans and Scotty are coming up next. We'll be talking about it on Monday. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.